So let's go over to the multiplayer aspect. So I want to kind of tell you my story a little bit with multiplayer. And
Okay.
I want to get your thoughts on it. So I started out right after launch. I was terrible, absolutely atrocious at the game.
We all were.
I mean, yep. I was a pretty casual gamer before that point. I played a lot of games, but never really very seriously. And
Sure.
worked my way up from Wood League to all the way up to Masters over the course of more than a year. And just became absolutely hooked on the game. And then sometime around the expansion pack, I just kind of stopped playing, and I could never really put my finger on it. Even to this day now, years later, I can't quite put my finger on why I was never pulled back into the game.
Sure.
I'm curious if this sort of story is something you see a decent amount of now that StarCraft's been out for quite a few years. And
It varies a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah, we hear from some people, they say, you know, I used to play multiplayer more, but it got too competitive, or it felt too intense, or I felt overwhelmed. We're addressing it actually from a lot of different angles. Ultimately, we're not too worried if a player says, you know what, I can't do the competitive scene. It's too stressful for me. That's fine. Like, there's a huge percentage of our player base that they want to play the campaign, they want to have a good time, and we want to make sure that Void is a great experience for them. You know, you don't ever have to play multiplayer, have an awesome time, play the campaign. We're working on new modes like co-op missions specifically for people like that they don't want the PvP experience, but they still want to play with their friends. So co-op missions is all based around that guy of, you know, I love objective-based combat, I love having a progression system, but I just want to play with my buddies, and I don't really want to have, you know, an opponent and a huge adrenaline rush every 6 seconds. So I think co-op missions is a great way to speak to that guy. On the other side of it, we are actually trying to make multiplayer a little bit more approachable in a few ways. So one of them that we're doing is Archon mode. You probably already heard about it. We're hoping that this provides a fun way for someone who's not super skilled. You know, maybe they're in, say, Silver League. You know, they have some experience. They've been playing. They're okay at the game, but they find it intimidating. They find it hard to move any further, and they feel like they kind of peaked. They're like, you know, I just don't feel like I can go further with this. This is as good as I'm going to get. Archon mode is the idea of we both work together. Obviously, I control my base, you control the units, or maybe I'll go attack here, and you take care of the base for now. And the idea is, can we match up that guy who now has a massive combined APM against someone who's in a higher league, like someone who's soloing? You know, you might actually get people that, you know, 2 gold league guys will match up, and they're so good together, we can put them faced off against a Masters League guy, and both of them will actually have a great experience.
I've been following, I thought, pretty well, but I didn't catch that you would be able to 2v1 it essentially as well.
So that's something that we want to play with. I think David Kim had more details he went over in the multiplayer panel. There are a lot of things that are on the table that we're going to try. So automated tournaments is another mode that we're trying to get for the, I guess, a little bit more on the hardcore side, right? The guy that, they're a huge player, they're a huge fan. They love watching WCS, they love seeing the pro circuit come together, and they want that experience. So that's kind of what automated tournaments are. You take a couple hours on a day, you sign up for it, boom, you're put in a bracket. Now, on ladder, I kind of match up against someone, I win, I lose, whatever, I'll never see that guy again. What you care about is that you advanced, but ultimately, that specific name is not that important. In automated tournaments, suddenly it is, right? You got this layout of all these guys, and you see all the names, you see the exact person. If you beat them, you move up, and you see who you're moving up against, and it actually matters. At the end, if you win it all, you get a little trophy, and you keep that, and it says like, you got a Bronze League trophy that you won this thing, you got a Silver League trophy. It's this really cool event, right? So on the hardcore side, that's kind of playing more to the strong multiplayer guy who really wants to have more engagement there. But we're hoping that just opening up all these doors of like, what if you played a tournament instead? Or what if you played Archon mode? Will maybe make multiplayer a little bit less intimidating for people who still want to try it out, but maybe felt a little overwhelmed in the past.
I remember one of my most memorable experiences. I was only in gold, I think, and I went to a local cyber cafe, and there was a little mini tournament there, and went up against some guys, and there was like some platinums and some diamonds people there, and I somehow pulled out the win.
Wow!
As this gold player, and it was like the only time I've ever been to like participate in a tournament outside of some online things. But I remember that was like a very memorable moment.
It is very exciting.
Do you think this kind of like automated tournament system will have that potential?
That's what we're trying to capture, actually. I think one of the goals is, the cool thing about having just a few games that you're going to play is every game matters so much. When you're on ladder, you maybe have to win a ton of games before you see your rank actually increase, right? Whereas in a tournament, if you win just a couple games, suddenly you're in the finals. You could actually win this whole thing. Like, getting lucky just a couple of times can take you to this really awesome event where you're all put into this tournament chat too. So you're talking together and you're like jamming at each other, and like I don't know. I think there is a very cool environment that we could capture there that gives this feel of, yeah, much more engagement with the people you're playing against.
I think that chat room is a particularly important point, having that kind of place to see and interact with the other players in the tournament as well. That's super important. So the other thing I was kind of a bit curious about then was, in terms of the multiplayer, you guys have made a lot of core game changes in the expansion as well over the course of the beta, and I think you guys are pretty set where you are now with where the beta is going forwards in the expansion.
Yes.
Yeah, we're very close, obviously. So
I would say that right now David Kim, he has high confidence in how the balance is working out with the common man, people like you and I. A little bit less confidence when it comes to the pro circuit.
Yeah.
So the pros are so focused right now on WCS and winning the finals that are happening today. They haven't really been playing Void that much. They played a little, they gave us feedback, but honestly, they just got to be training constantly in what's out live right now. So we haven't had a ton of pro level gameplay on Void right now. So there is a decent chance that once they actually get in there after BlizzCon, Void launches, they start hitting it. We may have to tweak some things at the very high level. Now, those tweaks actually happen very separately, though.
Yeah.
We have different goals. You know, David is always looking at, can I keep this game really fun, really engaging, and really approachable at the entry level? At the lowest levels, can you play this game and not be overwhelmed? We're introducing new units, so that's always a tough thing to try and balance, right?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
How is this, you know, we add new gameplay, but we don't overwhelm the guy who's just getting started. He's been playing with a lot of things like the Cyclone, for example, has this lock-on ability, and the pro way to play with it is you individually choose the units you want to lock onto, and then you kite around and you take them out and they never hit you, and it's awesome. But if you're new, you can actually just leave it on autocast, and it'll just acquire targets on its own. You kind of run around, you never have to activate an ability, and it's still very effective. Not as effective as it would be, but it's still a great unit. So I think that's kind of the way he's been approaching it, is that, you know, the game has to be fun at even the lowest possible level, but are there little tweaks that I can make so that at the extreme pro level, it's competitive and it's well balanced? Confidence is a little bit lower at the pro level right now, but that'll grow over time as more pros get involved with it.
one of the things that I think you were kind of almost touching on there was that the game can be quite fatiguing. That's like especially a problem that I had to deal with as I was progressing was, you know, after 2 or 3 matches, you're just exhausted. Because it's, you know, long. Sometimes you have long matches. There's a lot of like
it's hard to tell what's
mechanics and micro and things that you need to do. There's like it's very high stress, intense gameplay.
Can be.
But I feel like the expansion is changing a bit of that. Things like autocast and some macro mechanics and stuff like that. Do you think that'll be? Do you think that'll have a significant effect on that issue of like ladder fatigue?
There are a few different ways we're trying to approach that. Actually, we've got a lot of feedback from the community, and a ton of the decisions we're making are based on what our community's been saying. We read our forums, we read Reddit, people tweeting at us, whatever it is. We're really interested in what people are saying, like how do they want to play the game, what are they trying to engage with, and then can we find ways to make that more fun for them. So I'd actually say that we're trying to approach fixing the ladder from a few different directions, and one of them is transparency. We've actually gotten a lot of feedback that people play, like you said, a bunch of games on the ladder. They feel like they put a ton into it, you know, they won some, they lost some, but then kind of feel like they're in the same place. So one of our immediate goals we're trying to hit early next year is we want to make the ladder more transparent. We want to make it really clear like exactly where you are and what you have to do to advance. So you understand like, okay, here's exactly where I'm ranking right now, and here's what I have to do, and then I'll move up to higher ranks. So you have a better understanding of what's happening. I don't really have specifics on that. That's kind of like the high level goal of what we're going to try to do, because we feel like that has been too obfuscated so far. The other side of it, though, is you're talking about like you know, regardless of where my ranking is, like it can feel just very high stress. So I think that comes back to like the Archon mode, the automated tournaments, giving you some other ways that actually you can advance. Like playing tournaments does advance you as well, like in your ranking, as well as winning tournaments. So ways that you can have more of a bite-sized piece of gameplay, or with Archon mode, you kind of share the load a little bit with somebody else.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I don't think we want to force multiplayer on anyone. We always want to keep it you know, if this game mode is just not vibing with you, you're not really engaging with it, that's cool. We have campaign, we have co-op missions, we have the free arcade, tons of new content
so
coming out all the time.
So is that talking about potentially not sacrificing certain things to make it as attractive as possible to everyone, but instead keep it really attractive to those people who kind of more are into it?
Right. It's a difficult balance. We're always trying to get new players, and actually, the funny thing is, after talking with our pro players, we've invited them over a few times to talk to them about what do you guys feel are things that we should be doing and that will improve this game? Asking people, you know, commentators, what do you think will actually make StarCraft a better game, better esport, better gaming community? A big thing is they want to see new players. Like they're like, the pro level's already awesome. You guys are always adding more stuff to make it awesome, but I'd love to see just more guys coming in and playing the game. Like, okay, great.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is a goal for us, absolutely, but not to the extent that we would ever make it like not competitive, right? There is a balance there. Like we still want it to be a good PvP experience, because eventually you'll hit that barrier if there's a guy who's like, oh, you know what, I just don't like competitive at all. Like, all right, well, we're not taking multiplayer out of the game. It won't appeal to everybody, but we want to make sure that anybody who does want to try multiplayer can do it, hopefully without being overwhelmed by it.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Sure.
I much appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Cheers.
Thanks.